Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
I got to tell you, there's so much to unpack from this week. And there are some things I want to prioritize to get to, and maybe I won't get to everything, but I at least want to give you some thoughts, ideas, and perspectives on some of the happenings between the Israel-Hamas quote unquote ceasefire that seems to be put on hold because you can't trust a terrorist organization. Then you had the beginnings of the confirmation hearings for some of the Trump nominees. I want to talk about that. But first, I want to start off with something that is close to home, right here in Texas. Because what happened this past week in Texas, I had so many friends from outside of Texas texting me and calling me and, saying, Alan, what is going on in Texas? This past Christmas season, I got the opportunity. We spent Christmas down in Texas Hill Country, down in Blanco, Texas. Beautiful, nice little log cabin we had there, and took the whole family down to the Alamo. Wife, Angela, had never been there. She had visited San Antonio, but never got a chance to really go and see the Alamo. My oldest daughter, Aubrey, her husband, Troy, little Levi, my youngest daughter, Austin, her husband, JD, and our oldest grandson, Jackson. All of us went to the Alamo because I think it's so important that you understand what happened there. And especially for me, graduating from the University of Tennessee, because the most from any state that were there fighting, defending, and losing their lives at the Alamo we're from the state of Tennessee, 38. That's where we got that nickname. Unlike any other college football team, basketball team, no other nickname, the Tennessee Volunteers. To include a former member of Congress who infamously said when he lost his congressional reelection, you all may go to hell, I'm going to Texas. That was Davy Crockett. And so it was so interesting to be there to walk them through the history of Texas, to show them that bit of courage and kind of give them an understanding of, right here was kind of where, Travis, the commander there, was shot on the ramparts on that early morning of the 6th of April of 1836. Kind of getting them to understand what it looked like because everyone comes there and sees the Alamo, this little teeny tiny thing. Well, remember, there was no city built around it. It was just kind of out in the open. It was just a mission. They had extended out the walls and things of this nature. But also for my daughters and my wife to stand there at the Emily Morgan Hotel and kind of explain to them who Emily Morgan was. A lot of people don't understand it. Her full name was Emily West Morgan. Maybe we're distant relatives. She is the one that is known as the Yellow Rose of Texas. And when you go inside, you see the bronze statue to Emily West Morgan. A former slave, a mulatto woman, very light-skinned. That's why they called her the Yellow Rose. But she was the one who put her life on the line by kind of keeping General Santa Anna a little busy there at San Jacinto in his personal tent, while Sam Houston and the 700 or so attacked Santa Anna's army the afternoon of April the 21st of 1836 and won and secured the independence of the state of Texas. So when you talk about these people that laid it on the line, and remember, the United States was not coming to help. I mean, this was just everyday people, and I told them about, that connection of my state of Tennessee, but then also my birth state of Georgia, where, a person like Colonel Fannin, who was executed with his men at La Bahia, Goliad. Thomas Jefferson Rusk, the first Secretary of Defense of the Republic of Texas, also from Georgia. There's a county named after Thomas Jefferson Rusk. And of course, Sam Houston, who was the previous governor of Tennessee, who came here and became the first president of the Republic of Texas. And then later on, a senator, a congressman. Mirabeau Lamar, who was the first vice president of the Republic of Texas. Later on, he became president of the Republic of Texas. He was also a Georgian. And so I'm sharing all these things with them. And, it's pretty interesting. They wanted to learn and they wanted to know these things because normally people just go down and see the Alamo. They don't really get to understand all of the things that were happening before, after, the players and what have you. They don't get someone to explain them what is the cenotaph because their bodies were burned there. So the cenotaph is their memorial because they don't have, individual grave sites. The Alamo is a grave site. And I'm glad to see that they're trying to reconstruct it to be kind of like how it was back then, and they're getting rid of all of the junk, 5 and 10 stores and arcades and everything that was across the street. We really wanted to be a historic place. So you would think that today we would have men and women who would want to continue on that tradition, that legacy of honor and courage, and sacrifice and commitment. That didn't happen this week as the Texas state legislature opened up for its 89th legislative session. See, here in the Texas state legislature, where you have a majority of Republicans in the Texas State House of 88 Republicans to 62 Democrats. Easy, right? Shouldn't be any problem. Texas has trended even more so red when you look at this state from just, 2016 to 2020 to 2024. 12 or 14 border counties here in the state of Texas went red, went Republican. Even here in Dallas County, we saw that bright blue of Dallas County, kind of, lower couple of shades. But yet we had Republicans in the Texas State House, and people said, we no longer want to have this power sharing with Democrats. Because going back for certain since like 2009 with then Speaker Joe Straus, we've seen Republicans go over and join with Democrats to pick a person to be the Speaker of the House. Now, there are rules within the Republican caucus that say that whoever wins the vote to be Speaker in the Republican majority, which is the Republican House, they should be the Speaker of the House. Doesn't say shall, but says should be. And you would think common sense. Yeah, why not? I mean, imagine in the United States House of Representatives. I mean, we just went through this election. The Republicans won the majority. And on the day of the vote on the House floor, and I experienced the same thing, John Boehner was running for Speaker. All of a sudden, a group of Republicans were to go over and join with Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats to decide who would be a Speaker. Now, y'all saying that's absurd. Well, that's what happened this past week in the Texas State House, which is the reason why so many people were calling me. 36 Republicans out of the 88 Republican majority in the Texas State House, 36 decided to go over and join with 49 Democrats to select the Speaker for the Texas State House. So there were more Democrats than Republicans that pick the Speaker of the Texas State House. When you have 88 Republicans in majority of the Texas State House, and they have a caucus rule that says they should pick the person from within their caucus. That's their rule. And they didn't do it. David Cook, I believe from Midlothian, was the one who won the vote from within the Republican caucus back in December. Even though you had 26 Republicans that pulled a little chicanery and walked out on one of the votes, I think it was the third and final vote, to try to reduce the numbers to preclude him from being able to get the majority within the majority. That's the type of imbecilic, cowardice, political traitorship. I don't know if that's a word, but that's what we have here. So here in Texas, people worked hard to get and keep a majority. Donald Trump won Texas in this last election over Kamala Harris by close to 15 points. Ted Cruz, the race that was so close, Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. Colin Allred is ahead by 1 or 2 points. He beat him by like 9 to 11 points. But yet Republicans, who had an 88 to 62 majority in the Texas State House, 36 of that majority decide that we don't want to follow our own caucus rules. We're going to go over and cut a deal with these people that they wouldn't do that with us if they were in the majority. Ask a Republican out in the California State Assembly what it's like to be a Republican under Democrat rule. I think we know what it's like at the federal government level. I don't think there's any other state where this is happening. So 55 Republicans voted against this guy, Dustin Burrows, who claims to be a Republican. But what Dustin Burrows did got 36 Republicans and 49 Democrats, 85 total, because you need 76 because there's 150 people in the Texas state legislature. So 76 gets you there. He got 85. 49 of them were Democrats. More Republicans voted against him being the speaker than voted for him. And now he claims to be, he's the Speaker of the Texas State House, but not elected by his own party. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Steadfast and Law Program. We'll be right back. Greetings, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. In my career, from the battlefield to Congress, honor and integrity have always been my compass. When it comes to building a precious metals portfolio for my family, I choose United Patriot Coin. Their commitment to honesty and transparency aligns with everything I stand for. They care about our great country and focus on serving patriots from all walks of life. They've teamed up with veterans of the precious metals market to create a new kind of gold dealer designed to serve the needs of a new type of gold buyer. And that's why I know I can trust them when it comes time to buy my gold and silver. If you value honesty and reliability as I do, then join me. Hey folks, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West here, Steadfast and Law Program. Welcome back to the second segment. In the first segment we talked about kind of get you to understand what just happened here in the state of Texas. A state that is renowned for the courage, the bravery, the sacrifice, the commitment, the heroism of 183 at the Alamo, the charge at San Jacinto against overwhelming odds, standing alone. Currahee, if you remember the HBO miniseries Band of Brothers. That's the Cherokee word. That's what it means. Currahee stands alone. But yet, when they had the opportunity to show their commitment to principles and values, when they had the opportunity to stand strong, 36 Republicans in the Texas State House joined with 49 Democrats and had the Democrats choose a speaker instead of the majority picking the speaker. As Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said, I don't think that has ever happened anywhere in this nation. where the minority picked the speaker from the majority, took that power away from them. And what is amazing to me is that there are some people that say if you stand up against, if you speak out against that, you're being divisive. This is a prime example of bipartisanship. Let me tell you something. You never hear the word bipartisanship when Democrats are in majority. You don't hear that. What you do experience is tyrannical rule. And then when they're in the minority, they're just tenacious like a little rabid chihuahua. But yet here we had Republicans in the Texas State House, 88 of them. It's not even close to 62 Democrats. And they let the little rabid chihuahua decide who's in charge of the Texas State House. That's just unconscionable. And to say, people like Colonel West or, they're these hard right people and they're not, compromising. No, I'm not going to compromise my principles and values. Why should I? I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm the chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party. We worked hard to get Republicans elected. And guess what? The 2 Republican state house members from Dallas County, they joined with the 49 Democrats to select Dustin Burrows to be the Texas Speaker instead of supporting the person, David Cook, representative, who was the one that was selected out of the caucus. They violated their own caucus rules. So how can I be divisive if I'm saying, aren't you supposed to adhere to your own rules? Shouldn't you abide by those rules? I just found out recently that the mayor of Keller, Texas, has said that their state representative, Giovanni Capriglione, he's got to go. And I agree. Just the same as those 2 state house members, Morgan Meyer and Angie Chin Button. And oh, by the way, Angie Chin Button, if you get a chance to see or hear this program, you're my state representative. And you went down there and basically you gave me and everyone else that are Republicans that voted for you, and I voted for you, you gave me a middle finger because I did not want to see you vote with Democrats. I do not want to see Democrats getting committee chairs. I do not believe in power sharing with progressive socialists. But obviously you do. So I will tell you that yes, Morgan Meyer, Angie Chinbutt, you got to go. And the other 33, along with Capriglione, Morgan Meyer, Angie Chin, the other 33 that voted this way, you need to go. I hope you enjoy the lobbyists and all the fun that you'll have, but this will probably be your last legislative session. And see, this goes back to one of the big problems that we have here in Texas. We got to close our primaries. Because what is happening too often, because here in Texas, you don't register as a Republican or Democrat, you just register to vote. And you can go in and you can vote in whichever. You just say, I'd like a Republican ballot, I like a Democrat ballot, what have you. I mean, your voting history can be tracked and people can understand where you're voting. But we have Republicans that go out and cater, kowtow, seek out Democrat support in order to win in primaries so that they can go back down and do exactly what we saw these 36 do. Case in point, the former Speaker of the House, who I termed as a political traitor back in 2020, when he did the exact same thing, that was Dave Phelan from the Beaumont, Texas area. He was in a very contested race last year in March in the primary against David Covey. It went to a runoff. Now, a Republican runoff election, Phelan wins by like 400 votes. You know what got him over the top? Over 1,000 Democrats voted in a Republican runoff election for Dave Phelan. This is why we got to close our primaries. We got to make people responsible, accountable to the Republican constituency. because every other year you have this Republican Party of Texas convention, and the grassroots constitutional conservatives, that's who they are. They come together. These are the people that you want to get out there and work hard, be activists. They come together and they develop these legislative priorities. They vote on it. They spend time to develop this platform. And what happens? People like Dave Phelan, Dustin Burrows, they give them the middle finger. Let me tell you how bad it was in the 88th legislative session when Dave Phelan was the Speaker of the House. And he stepped down from this race because he just felt that his name was toxic. But Dustin Burrows is one of his acolytes, one of his chogi boys, as we say in the military. And so in the 88th legislative session, when Dustin Burrows was in charge of the calendars, I mean, he was the one in charge of what bill gets heard and when does it go up for consideration. And Phelan, of course, was the Speaker of the House. They killed a bill that was passed in the Texas State Senate to preclude China, the number one geopolitical foe of the United States of America. A bill passed in the Texas State Senate to preclude China and other foreign entities, foes, from buying up land here in Texas. And oh, by the way, there is a former member of the Chinese People's Liberation Army that has bought massive amount of land right next to an air base in Del Rio, Texas, where we train our F-35 pilots. Dave Phelan and Dustin Burrows thinks that's okay. And they killed legislation that would have precluded that from happening. And now they go over and join up with 49 Democrats, and Dustin Burrows is the speaker, just like Dave Phelan went over and got the Democrats to vote for him. Who do you think they're accountable to? Because they basically just said Morgan Meyer, Angie Chin Button, Giovanni Capriglione, all of y'all. You basically just said, we don't care what y'all think. Mr. Guerin, State Representative Guerin, Cole Hefner, Lacey Hull, Cody Harris. I mean, those are the names that immediately pop up into my head. Gary Vandiver. Those are the names that immediately pop up into my head. And that's supposed to be okay. I mean, the Texas Tribune is just livid. Leftists in Texas are just livid. They're just happy as can be. But it's going to be a short-lived, it's like a sugar high. Because we're in January, and I think a lot of people forget the primary in Texas is in March of next year. So we will see what happens in this legislative session. But I can tell you right now, an incredible group of candidates will be recruited to run against these 36 people and defeat them. But we've got to close the primaries to do this. And the Republican Party of Texas has already said that they will be censuring these individuals that joined up with the Democrats. And I can pretty much so guarantee you that here in Dallas County, the same resolution will pass. If possible, these individuals, these 36, they will not be on a Republican primary ballot. I don't know what ballot they'll be on. I don't know, write-in or whatever. But they have shown us they're not Republicans. Oh, but Colonel West, you guys are being purists. No, we're not being purists. I mean, Seth Moulton, a Democrat, came out after this November the 5th election and talked about how he did not want his daughters competing against biological males. Pretty common doggone sense to me, right? Democrats came down on him so hard. Absolutely incredible. To the point where Seth Moulton now, he does not even support legislation that would protect women in sports. And you're trying to say that Republicans, constitutional conservatives have a purity test just because we're saying adhere to your own rules in your Republican caucus? That's insane. It's insidious. It's delusional. And we don't want delusional people to be in elected positions. We don't want cowards. We don't want traitors to be in elected positions. They come out there and campaign and say these things. And oh, by the way, Governor Abbott, I'm waiting to hear from you because you personally came up here and campaigned with Morgan Meyer and Angie Chin Button in Dallas County. How do you feel about them jumping over and voting with 49 Democrats? The kind of people that wouldn't vote for you and ain't going to vote for you. And oh, by the way, remember those Democrats in the Texas State House that last legislative session, they just took off and flew away to Washington, D.C. because they wanted to block election integrity legislation passing. They were heralded, called heroes in Washington, D.C., hosted by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. These are the type of people that 36 Republicans joined with to pick the Speaker of the House when you had 88 Republicans that controlled the Texas State House. Something to ponder. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Steadfast and Loyal Program. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here at Watchtower Firearms. This is the custom design AR-15 that was just made for me. It's got my Steadfast and Loyal logo there. On this side, you can see my signature, my master parachutist wings, of course, American flag. And I just want to tell you that you can't be a great American unless you have a great American weapon. And that's exactly what Watchtower Firearms is building. Great American weapons, all American parts, manufactured right here in the great state of Texas. And oh, by the way, let me see, where is the serial number on this one? TX1836. If you're from Texas, I think you know what that means. God bless you. God bless Watchtower.
Hit, dead center. Yes.
Hey, folks, welcome back. Segment 3, this episode of the Steadfast and Loyal Program. It's just amazing what just happened here in the state of Texas. 88 members, Republican members in the Texas State House, clear majority out of the 150 seats. But yet 36 Republicans decide, we're just going to be punks. We're going to be cowards. We're going to be traitors. Yeah, I said it. You want to challenge me on that? I know what bravery looks like. I know what heroism looks like. I know what my mother taught me. A man must stand for something or else they'll fall for anything. So I would rather have people upset with me because I stand for something. We have this saying in the military, you only take flak when you're over the target. But some people don't want to go anywhere near the target. Let me give you this case in point when we talk about what happened with these 36 defectors, traitors, who went over and voted with 49 Democrats in the Texas State House to have 49 Democrats select who the speaker would be when they have a majority of 88 Republicans. Imagine me as a commander on the battlefield. Just happen to have been one. We're in a firefight with the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, you name it, over in Iraq or Afghanistan. Let's choose Afghanistan. We're in a firefight with the Taliban over in Afghanistan. And there's a village, a series of villages that we're fighting these guys against over, let's say, down south, southern Afghanistan, where I was. Pick a province. Uruzgan province, Helmand province, Daikundi province, Kandahar province, Helmand province. Pick one of those provinces down there in southern Afghanistan. Hotbed of the Taliban. It's a tough firefight. Or it could be like Ramadi or Fallujah in Iraq. Tough fight against Islamic jihadists, terrorists on the ground. But we win the fight. We lose troops. But we hold the village or the city, be it Ramadi or Fallujah. What would my troops think about me as the commander if after this battle, where we defeated the enemy, we won this ground, we shed blood to do it? There were young men that got wounded because of it. But then all of a sudden, I go over to the Taliban or to Al Qaeda, and I sit down with their leadership and say, hey, look, how about I give you back 60% if you promise not to attack us anymore? What do you think my soldiers would think of me? The soldiers that I just had them go in and fight tooth and nail, inch by inch, that saw their brothers die, that saw some of them get severely wounded. For me then to come in and say, we're going to give some of it back to the enemy. This is what has happened here in Texas. People went and fought hard for this strong majority in the Texas State House. And then a handful, 36, decide we're going to go over to the people that they just fought hard against. And yes, I do consider progressive socialism and Marxism an enemy. That ideology, that principle and philosophy of governance to be antithetical to who we are as a constitutional republic and the people that carry that banner. Because I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. So if you stand against the Constitution, if you violate the Constitution, sorry, you're on the wrong side. I got to stand against you. But they just gave everything away to them. I mean, they just gave everything away. Did you see the people, the Democrats, during these confirmation hearings, especially the confirmation hearings for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Attorney General Pam Bondi? Did you see some of the questions they were asked? They're not asking about the things that affect you, your everyday life. They're not even thinking about, oh man, we just had our butts handed to us on November the 5th. Let's try to find common ground on some policies. No, they went after people personally. I mean, Adam Schiff up there asking Pam Bondi about, are you going to go after Liz Cheney? Who cares about Liz Cheney? You know, it was amazing to me that a lot of the questions that were asked of Pam Bondi, these people have said nothing about Merrick Garland. They have said nothing about the FBI and what they've done. I mean, calling parents domestic terrorists. I don't think Pam Bondi's going to go up there and call parents domestic terrorists. Oh, that's right. If you are not on board with the progressive, socialist, leftist, Marxist agenda, if you think that a baby in the womb should have protection, oh, we're going to raid your house. If you don't think that biological males should be able to compete against females and go into bathroom facilities with your daughters, we're going to label you a domestic terrorist. And then they had the audacity to ask her about going an enemies list. Are you kidding me? See, these people are scared. I mean, when I looked at, and I got to tell you, those are some unhinged people on the Democrat side on the Senate Armed Services Committee. First of all, what is Elizabeth Warren doing on the Senate Armed Services Committee? I can understand Tammy Duckworth, but Elizabeth Warren, Kristen Gillibrand, Mazie Hirono, that woman is not stable. And some of the questions that they asked of Pete Hegseth, look, first and foremost, they did not care about defense policy whatsoever. They didn't care about the fact that we have not met our recruiting and retention goals. They don't care about the fact that the military has not passed, the Department of Defense has not passed an audit in 7 years. And when Tammy Duckworth asked Pete Hegseth about, has he ever done an audit or passed an audit, I would have turned that on her and said, do you think that the United States Senate, the United States Congress could pass an audit? I mean, after all, we're $36 trillion of debt. We have like $2 trillion of annual deficit spending. No, We couldn't pass an audit. But see, that's the mentality of the other side. They didn't get the memo from November the 5th. And I truthfully believe that they're going back, asking Pam Bondi, do you think that Joe Biden won the election in 2020? Will you say that Joe Biden won the election? Let me tell you something. Even the USA Today, when Joe Biden came out and said he was giving his farewell speech, which I don't think anybody cared about, 15 minutes of delusional ranting from an angry old man, even the USA Today said, you can't leave soon enough. So they realized that this was a failure. But when you look at that type of derangement that you saw, and we still have a couple of other, I'm sure, quite heated confirmation hearings coming up. I'm sure the EPA hearing with Lee Zeldin is going to be quite controversial because they don't want to give up the Green New Deal thing. After all, the fires out in California is all about climate change. Homeland Security, Governor Kristi Noem in South Dakota, the border's secure. I mean, I can't wait to see some of the questions they're going to ask for the nominee for Homeland Security. After this bumbling fool, Alejandro Mayorkas, give me a break. Most of everything else was pretty, innocuous. I mean, Treasury, Transportation, CRA, Energy, Interior is going to be interesting. Secretary of State, FBI, oh boy. You can already see right now, they are afraid of Kash Patel because there's some skeletons. There's some bad stuff going on in the FBI, and they don't want it to be uncovered. They don't want to be, reformed. And really and truthfully, what you saw with a lot of the questions from these contentious hearings this week, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, they're afraid. They're afraid about losing stranglehold. Now, why do I bring this up, these Trump nominee confirmation hearings? That's the exact same mentality of the folks here in the Texas State House, the Democrats in Texas State House. The 36 Republicans joined with 49 Democrats to choose Dustin Burrows to be Speaker. Those are the exact same people that welcome the Texas State House Democrats to Washington, D.C. when they sought to stall election integrity legislation here in the state of Texas. And oh, by the way, if you go back, nothing ever happened to them. And they were being paid on the taxpayer dime, Texas taxpayer dime, while they were up there getting wined and dined in Washington, D.C. See, here's the thing. The American people and Texans, they want to see Republicans stand up and have a pair. I'll be very honest. Put on your big boy and big girl pants. But what we saw happen here in the state of Texas is not reflective of the courage and the bravery and the heroism of the men and women who, between October of 1835, when they made the stand saying, come and take it at Gonzales, to the Battle of San Jacinto on 21 April of 1836, these people are not indicative of that. Those 36 aren't. And it should be a stench in our nostrils here in the state of Texas. It should be a stench in the nostrils of all Americans that love liberty, that we still have folks that want to kowtow and be subservient to and succumb to progressive socialists and Marxists and think that's okay when that's not afforded to Republicans in California, New York, or anywhere else where they have majorities. When in charge, you should be in charge. You should not be afraid. You should not be reticent. You should not be recalcitrant, especially when your political opposition is this deranged and this delusional and has proven that they do not care about the preservation and the sanctity of this constitutional republic. So, to those 36, and if you don't know who they are, I mean, you can dial up any news report. You can find the names. To those 36 Republicans, enjoy your last legislative session. Because as it says in the Bible, Whatever a man sows, that he shall reap. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Steadfast and Lower program. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Steadfast and Lower program. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. Our first three segments, we have really been talking about this disturbing event that happened in the Texas State House this past week, Tuesday, the 14th of January, 2025, with the House Speaker vote. Republicans said they did not want to see Republicans joining with Democrats to select the speaker. They did not want to see Democrat committee chairs selected from a Republican majority of 88 to 62. But yet that's exactly what 36 Republicans decided to do. They crossed the aisle. I don't see them as crossing over to the aisle. I see them as being cowards and traitors who sold out, 30 pieces of silver. I don't know what they got out of it, to 49 Democrats who now are going to expect something in return, quid pro quo, which means committee chairs, and not just, the, chairman of the committee on State House furniture. They want something that's important, something that's relevant. And I think that it is so important, again, that people pay attention to what is going on at their state level and their local levels of governance. The two levels that really and truthfully are closest to you and impact your life the most. Municipal level elections are coming up all across Texas in first Tuesday of May. City council elections, school board elections, mayoral elections, they are very important elections. Because if anything, they're the springboard of the pool of people that you can look at to take to the next level, kind of like baseball, farm team. Because baseball, they're going to be getting ready for spring training here, probably about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. And that's what they do, single A, double A, triple A, and then the major leagues. So our municipal level elections are so important, and our state elections are so important. And I think that you're going to see between now and next year, when we go into the primary season for the midterm election cycle, not the municipal, but the midterm election cycle of 2026, you're going to see some very interesting things in the Texas primary. We already saw some 12 to 14 in the last primary cycle of 2024. A lot of Texas state representatives were defeated. But I guess people still didn't get the memo. So the 36 joined with 49 Democrats. A lot of those 36 will not be going back to Austin for the 90th legislative session. And then we talked about some of the grandstanding, that happened up there in the Trump nominees' confirmation hearings. That's what it was, grandstanding. They didn't talk about issues. They did everything they could to try to embarrass people, these nominees. Pointing your finger at Pam Bondi, telling her not to speak. Where are all the feminist groups talking about how misogynist that was and condescending? Nah, she's a conservative woman. Who cares? Throw her to the wolves. She's not a real woman, just like you're not really black. You're not really Hispanic. You're not really an Asian if you're a constitutional conservative. Only people that count are the people that toe our line. And so the Democrats did not get the memo. They're not just doubling down. They're not just tripling down. They're quadrupling down. And I think that you're looking at a political party that's on the verge of political exile in the United States of America for quite some time, but only if Republicans stand on principle. Not join hands with them like we saw happen here in Texas to pick a Speaker of the House. You got 88 people out of 150 as the majority. But yet 36 of you Republicans in the Texas State House, you know who you are. You jump over with 49 Democrats. Amazing. The other big story I want to talk about from this week, This whole thing about a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. Now, did y'all see when Joe Biden was asked who gets the credit for this ceasefire happening? And he said, Are you joking?" No, we're not joking. The media knows not you. I mean, Biden gave this very disturbing foreign policy address last week, Monday. I mean, I don't know what Alice in Wonderland world he's living in, but we're not in a better or safer America. I mean, to try to sell us, Jake Sullivan, Boy Blunder of the National Security Council, the National Security Advisor, to try to sell us that, oh, the decision to abandon Afghanistan was great because we'd still be there fighting. Who said we'd have to be there fighting? Why could we be there and precluding the Taliban from having a base of operations? Which means Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Haqqani network, they're all right back where they were. As a matter of fact, Barack Obama, thank you, releasing those 5 senior members of the Taliban to Qatar. Guess where they are? They're back in power in Afghanistan. And that leads me to the whole issue with having a negotiation, an agreement with Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas, just like the Taliban, they are a non-state, non-uniform belligerent, a terrorist organization acting on the battlefield that actively targets civilians. Hamas's charter calls for the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel and the murder and the killing of Jews worldwide. That's in their charter. That's what they exist to do. They're the governing authority in a piece of terrain called Gaza. A strip of land that, if I'm correct, is somewhere between 26 and 30 miles long and about 8 to 10 miles wide that borders Israel to the south. A terrorist organization as a governing authority. You don't legitimize a terrorist organization by sitting down at the table with them. I get it. I understand. That's what people are doing. But when you do it from a position of strength. You crush them. Now, Israel has done an impeccable job. I mean, Israel has whacked out more terrorist leaders in the past 18 months than I think the United States of America has done in quite some time. Yeah, we got al-Baghdadi. We got Soleimani, Trump administration. And, Barack Obama was coerced into taking out Osama bin Laden. I'm sure that was something that he absolutely did not want to do. If it weren't for Hillary Clinton and Leon Panetta, he probably would not have done it. But the entire leadership of Hezbollah whacked. Hamas whacked. And the message that Donald Trump has sent is very clear. Even Qatar understands that message. Qatar told the Hamas leadership that was there, that they were harboring, that they need to leave. But you don't sit down and legitimize a terrorist organization by recognizing them. There's only one thing you do. You kill them. You crush them. You decimate them. You destroy them. And now the latest reports, right before we did this program segment, was that Prime Minister Netanyahu has put everything on hold. Why? Because terrorists do what terrorists do. They're reneging already. Let me tell you, 9 hostages. Hamas says, we'll give you back 9 hostages. Give us 110 some odd of our prisoners. Folks that were in prison for life, for murder. So in other words, what Hamas is saying is that we want people back so we can reconstitute, we can regenerate, and we can get our killers back onto the battlefield. That dog don't hunt. And so what needs to be said is that, sorry guys, no ceasefire. We're going to continue to hammer you. And I know people saying, oh, but Colonel, the civilians there. Well, that's Hamas's responsibility. See, not a single civilian in the Gaza Strip, man, woman, or child, would have lost their life. Dog, cat, whatever, would have lost their life if Hamas had not taken the action that they took on October the 7th, 2023. They're responsible. They're accountable. They targeted civilians. Israel does not target civilians. Hamas uses civilians as shields. Hamas puts their command and control headquarters in tunnels around and under hospitals. There's body cam footage from the IDF of a raid that went in to rescue some of the hostages, got them out alive. They were being held in an apartment building by civilians. See, that's what terrorists do. See, so we shouldn't sit down and have talks with Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Abu Sayyaf, Boko Haram. I mean, I can go on ad nauseum, ad infinitum. Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. Did I say Abu Sayyaf? None of them. We just shouldn't. Or even the transnational narco-criminal terrorists that we call cartels. They're not a business organization. They're a terrorist organization. They're a non-state, non-uniform, belligerent organization operating on a battlefield. They openly carry weapons, and they hide in and amongst civilians. You don't talk to these people. We got to have a policy that roots them out. We got to have a policy, and it's not just the military policy, but you have to have the diplomatic policy to isolate them. You have to have the economic policy to isolate them economically. You have to have the information policy to pound them with bad media. Unfortunately, we got our media here in the United States of America that sides with these idiots. And don't forget this, talking about this whole Islamic jihadist thing and Hamas or whatever. On January the 1st of 2025, we awoke to a terrorist attack inspired by ISIS. But on the exact same day in New York City, people were marching, calling for an intifada in the United States of America. What is an intifada? It's a violent uprising. They were carrying the flag of Hamas, a terrorist organization, in New York City on New Year's Day. That's why we need a new administration. And you did not hear Democrats ask any questions about how we would rectify that of the Secretary of Defense. Let's see what they'll ask Kristi Noem, Homeland Security nominee. There's a pretty good theme that I hope you got from today's episode. People that are steadfast and loyal have principles that align with our constitutional republic. The other side doesn't. Who are you going to align with? Steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.